Brown, welcome to Stourbridge. Thank you very much for being with us. You yourself said this week, what you see is what you get. I think you've got about 8 weeks left to convince these undecided voters and the millions around the country why they should vote for you. Why should they?
I won't let you down. Everybody here is thinking about the future and what's going to happen. We've got to secure the recovery and we can't afford to wreck it. We've got to build the jobs, the apprenticeships, the skills of the future and the industries of the future, particularly here in the Midlands, and we can't afford to have rising unemployment again. We've got to protect our frontline services, health and schools and policing, while cutting the deficit that's come as a result of the recession. And we've got to be for the many. We've got to be for the many and not for the few. And I believe when people have a choice, it's not a referendum anymore, it's a choice, then people will see that we have the policies that are best to equip this country for the future. And I'm very happy to discuss all our policies with people today. OK, well, let's start with Barry Weir, because I think you've felt the effects of the recession. I think you've been made unemployed twice in recent times. What's your question to the Prime Minister?
Mr Brown, I think you'll be aware that the manufacturing industry has been declining steadily over the past 20 years or so. As you might be aware, in Stourbridge, we used to have a major glass manufacturing industry. It's virtually completely disappeared now. Mainly due to cheap foreign imports. What I'd like to know from you is, what will you do to prevent that decline in manufacturing continuing?
Well, I'm sorry about your job losses, and I hope you'll find something soon. Look, I'm excited about the future because we can move into advanced manufacturing. So low carbon manufacturing, digital manufacturing, manufacturing that's built around pharmaceuticals and biotechnology. And in this region, which has got this huge history of being the manufacturing centre, not just of Britain, but of Europe, I see all the signs at Aston University, Birmingham University, I see it in Coventry, I see it here as well in this area, that we've got new industries that are coming through and we've got to back them. So the college has taken on more apprenticeships. 100 companies in the area are employing apprentices now, and that is the next stage of our industrial renaissance. And part of the reason that we're putting the centre, the hub of the railway industry in future around Birmingham is because we see Birmingham right at the centre of the next stage of the development of our country. Birmingham, the Midlands, we've got about 50,000 more jobs than 1997, but we've got to do more. And over the country, I believe we can create about 1.5 million more skilled jobs over the next few years. So I believe there are opportunities for the future, and we've got to build from now to get these opportunities.
Does that convince you? Do you feel optimistic?
Well, I just think that you know, those new industries, we aren't seeing evidence of that at the moment, and we're seeing the possibility of even more job losses and more factory closures. For example, Jaguar Land Rover, very seriously looking at closing the Land Rover factory in Solihull, or the historic Jaguar factory in Castle Bromwich, which, you know, would be a complete disaster because those are really big employees in this.
Prime Minister, let me just bring in Brooks as well to make a point, and we'll keep going.
Thanks.
The banks were helped, but manufacturing, I mean, Longbridge has gone. The banks were helped. Why not help manufacturing? Youth unemployment's there. You know, the media tell us that we've got youth unemployment rising, but surely if somebody like Longbridge was still working, that would generate apprenticeships on a big scale, not 100 companies. So
we've got more apprentices than at any time in our history now, because we've taken on more during the recession so we can be ready for the upturn. Every penny that the banks have received will be paid back. I can guarantee you that is what is going to happen. And we're taking the money back from the banks because we had to make sure that people had their savings protected. Nobody had lost any money as a result of the savings being protected. But on manufacturing, if you take Jaguar Land Rover, it's got a great future if it moves into the low carbon, into the electric engines, and it's round this area, universities in Birmingham, that the new research is being done on the electric car, the electric van, and for a change in the transport of the future. So I know it's been very difficult, and look, anybody who loses a job has got a right to be angry, because this was caused by the banks, it wasn't caused by you. But I'm trying all the time.
You were Chancellor while those banks were being allowed to run at those large debts.
But what happened with the banks is we had a financial crisis that started in America that just spread around the world. I mean, we were not in a position to control all these events. And when we had the crisis, I just moved in and said, look, we've got to restructure the banks. And that's what we did.
The banks were far too reckless, Mr. Brown.
They were reckless. They were reckless. But you've got to understand that around the world, we had banks interlocked with other banks, and unless you have a global system of regulating them, which is what I've been pressing for years, you can't wholly control what each bank is doing. And that's what we've been trying to do over the last 2 years. Every penny that the banks have received will be paid back, and I can assure you of that.
Prime Minister, just going back to the jobs question you were talking about, when do you think these new low-carbon jobs will be coming in? Because I guess some of the people who are unemployed here kind of would like to know an answer to that. When
starting now, because we've invested a huge amount in low-carbon research and development. And so you've got electric vans being developed, you've got Jaguar Land Rover, which of course is going to make decisions about its future, but it is actually moving into this new area. And you've got a lot of advanced manufacturing here that is developing for the future in pharmaceuticals and in biotechnology. We've just designated the Midlands as a low-carbon economic centre for the country. So we're thinking all the time, what can we do for the future? How can you create the jobs? How can you get young people the skills?
Let me just bring Brett O'Reilly in, because I think you work at the local college.
Yeah, that's right.
And what are you doing there?
I'm an electrical installations assessor and tutor as well.
So when you hear Gordon Brown saying that they're creating more apprenticeships, what's your experience?
I fully support what he says. We have funding has gone into apprenticeships, but in an area like this where manufacturing's in decline and people require retraining, how can you justify a 21% cut in trying to gain funding, which is to retrain people?
Train to Gain is the programme that is giving adults skills, and that is skills in literacy. What we're trying to do is give adults also skills, technical skills. So we're trying to move some of the money into the higher grade of skills so that people can actually get jobs and not just the basic literacy qualifications. Equally, at the same time, I remember seeing that 100 companies in this area around here have actually been hiring apprenticeships over the last year. So through the recession, they've been hiring young people. And so we're trying to build for the future.
But is it the right time to be cutting that budget?
It's not the Train to Gain that is losing so much as the...
Train to Gain has lost 21%.
Yeah, you're talking about the first part of it, which is training adults with basic literacy skills. We've been moving money into training people with technician skills because that's where the job demand is. and that's what we're trying to do.
Prime Minister, Brett, what's your experience?
My experience is that adult education as a whole, people who want to retrain, funding is being withdrawn. For example, part-time students who wish to enrol next year on electrical installations courses have been told that it will be at full cost to themselves. There'll be no funding from the government at the moment.
Well, hold on. We've got more students in our country than at any time in our history. There are 2 million students. We've increased the number of students by 25%
He's concerned
since...
about his budget. The budget.
Hold on. We've increased it by 25% since 1997. We're putting money at the moment, massive amounts of money, into both apprenticeships for young people and into the Future Jobs Fund. But we've decided on this Learn Direct programme, Train to Gain, that what we want to do is to give adults, spend more money on giving adults the technical skills that will get them jobs. Because Train to Gain is about the basic skills. We want adults to get the technical skills that will get them jobs. And that explains the change in the policy that you're talking about.
John Allen, come back.
Yeah. I'm with, but I understand about the future. That's fine. Yeah. That's brilliant. But how long have you been in power? Surely you should have done something here so that we not get to here now. And we're here now, and we see it. A manufacturing area, it's a decline. It's a spiral down, not a spiral up.
I mean, you know, I do understand what you're saying, but you also, I think, know that 10 years ago nobody was talking about low carbon. They now are, and we're now investing in it. 10 years ago, people were not talking about climate change in the way that they've done, and about the need to diversify your energy supply. And 10 years ago, we didn't have the digital technologies, and now we've got them, and we're now investing in them. And what I'm saying to you, there is a choice at the election. We will invest in the industrial policy of the future. So we're investing in digital, low carbon, in advanced manufacturing, putting a huge amount of money into biotechnology, because that's where the jobs are for the future. And these are manufacturing as well as service jobs, with this area one of the big heartlands of the developing industries of the country. Or you can just leave it to the market forces and let the recession rip, let everything happening just because